Welcome, Natalya Barash, to the DishWithDina podcast. Thank you so much for being here with me today.
Thank you so much, Dina, for having me.
We've known each other for quite some time. You are probably one of the very few podcast guests that I've had on here that I've actually physically met in life, human form, and we've actually worked with each other. So tell
Yeah.
our audience a little bit about our story, and then we'll talk a little bit about your specific story.
Not just as like in person or in a work environment that we know each other, but also you forgot to say, you didn't mention that you were my preceptor. That was a few years ago. So that was when I was in my dietetic internship. I did the Be Complete distance dietetic internship with Beryl Krinsky, who is one of our mutual favorite people. And you were my preceptor for my community rotation. And I did 4 wonderful weeks with you. You were different than all my preceptors. And it was such a nice break in the rigidity of the program. And you were so chill. And I loved working for you, interning for you. I loved it because you showed me that you can have like a work-life balance, and it was more than just about like being a dietitian, and that you had a life outside of that. Sometimes it's hard, like when you are being a professional intern and you think like this is your life, and really sometimes you need to take a step back and to realize that it's just a part of your life. It's not the whole thing. And it's just a part of you. It's not the entire you. And so I really appreciate that. You were just like human to human about it. Yeah. So I really appreciated that.
Natalia, I so
Yeah.
appreciate that. I wanted you to share that because I love hearing it from your perspective and from my perspective. For anybody who's listening or watching this, those people who know what the internship entails, it can be quite grueling. It's quite competitive. It's a little bit challenging depending on who you are working with. It can be like, why do we have to make things so hard? But to add pressure to that particular time, we were also coming off the tail end of COVID restrictions being lifted, and everything just felt really volatile. And like, how do we even go back into this? And I remember, and I think I've shared this before too on one of the past episodes, if I'm not mistaken, there was a whole year where I had like 8 to 12 interns just piled up on top of each other because I had no work to do as far as my job. And so we were coming up with ideas and content and experiences and trying to really make it work. And so I share this because I love hearing that feedback from you. And I also want to encourage anybody who's going into the dietetics profession or any profession where you have to take on a student or take on an intern, allow them to see and play and enjoy and recognize that it doesn't always have to be so hard and challenging, even though they have to meet the criteria of the program and they have to satisfy certain requirements. You can really ebb and flow with a lot of that stuff. Like, I tried my best to make it super flexible. Like, what are your interests and how do you want to approach this versus what can you do for me? Because that's not really the role of a preceptor. I'm not your boss. I'm a supervisor who's watching you and giving you those experiences. And so I am so, so grateful and humbled by all the things that you just said, and also so honored to have been part of your journey because now look at you now. You're part of the family of dietitians, and I'm thankful to have been playing a small part of that in all of the stuff that you've gone through. So thank you for that again. I want to ask a little bit more about that journey then, Natalia. Take us through what even got you started in knowing what dietetics profession was, how you got involved in the health and wellness world. So share with us a little bit about the history of what brought you to this field.
The history of Natalia. Back in the day, I was actually planning to be an optometrist. So I went to Pace University in downtown New York City campus for my biology degree. So I got my degree in biology slash pre-optometry. And my plan was to go to optometry school. And then I would say that life happened and I had different experiences. I met different people. Maybe I changed the way I was thinking. And I wasn't sure if I would be happy in that role. At that point, I decided to take a break after school and I started working. And then years later, I always knew I wanted to go back to school. So that was always a definite for me. I love education. I love learning. Even when I wasn't actively like enrolled in school, I was always learning research studies and books and things to do with science. So I always knew I wanted to go back to school. I just didn't know for what. So I knew optometry wasn't the route for me, but I wasn't sure what was. Until one lovely summer, I decided that, I need to do something with my time besides just having fun in summer. So I decided to take a class. And I'm like, okay, so what am I interested in? I've always been interested in nutrition, always. Eating healthy, healthy food, cooking, I've always had a very avid interest in that. And so I decided to take a nutrition class. So the class was called Human Nutrition. I think it was like a basic class, like Human Nutrition 101. I remember my professor's name. We can do a shout out. It was a Miss Malcolm Miller at Brooklyn College. I loved it. I loved the class. I loved learning about the vitamins and minerals and how they work and what they are and the effects in the body and where they're found and about digestion and metabolism and all of these things. I learned so much in that class that I decided to continue with taking nutrition classes without an end goal in mind. So the next semester, I took 2 classes. After that, I took 4 classes. So I was about a year in Brooklyn College when I thought about it and I'm like, maybe I should do something with all of these classes as opposed to just taking a few classes at a time. Maybe I should focus my efforts on actually getting a degree and making something out of this. And then we had a speaker in one of our classes talking about being a dietitian, a registered dietitian. And that's when the light bulb, the aha moment came for me when I'm like, oh, I could have a profession from this. Because at first I just wanted to take it because I'm interested in it. But now I realized I could actually be a dietitian in a field that I love. So from that point on, I saw an advisor and I took like the classes as I was supposed to for the degree. I ended up after Brooklyn College. I went to Lehman College, actually finished up over there. And I know Lehman College is close to your heart. That's one of your jobs. So yes, I finished up my degree there, and then I started the dietetic internship. So straight after college, dietetic internship, and straight from the internship, I started working. I actually wasn't even officially a dietitian. I just started working right away with Nutrico, which takes dietitians and puts them in long-term care facilities, in skilled nursing facilities, in nursing homes. And they take dietitians who didn't even pass the test yet. It was great experience. I don't regret any of my jobs that I've ever had, but that's already getting ahead of myself.
As always is the case, I scribble about a million different notes to myself. And what I love about our conversations with people in the health and wellness world, but really anybody who has the ability to kind of look back on the history of who they are and recognize things that did not serve them and things that did serve them. And I love what you said too, because there have been themes that have come up in the past for myself as well, where we've started going in one direction and then just it didn't feel right. And I think this really allows anyone out there who's listening to understand you might not be able to completely quit a job just like that. You might have to ease into or out of things, but you shouldn't stick with something if it's not bringing you joy or if it's not bringing you whatever you feel like is on the path to something else. So I love what you said about really recognizing that that degree served you for a purpose, but then it wasn't really the direction you saw yourself going. You allowed yourself to kind of dip your toe into the water that was human nutrition and really noticed within you that spark that said, this, I feel like I want to do another one of these classes and another one of these classes. I also like that you were in the college. So it wasn't just like you were taking some no name, 2 hour certification course or something. Like you actually went to a school that you were able then to apply those credits towards a major when you decided to keep moving forward. So that's something too that I want to people to think of as well. It doesn't mean, like Natalya said, you might not have an end goal in mind, but make sure that you're conscientious about the decisions that you are putting in front of you because they can accumulate and you can then decide where to go and then you'll have what you need to move forward. It's instead of, randomly figuring out, do a little bit of this, do a little bit of that, and then 2 years go by and you're like, what am I doing next? So I love, love, love all that you said. Before we go into the current who you are or other things around job stuff, I want you to share with the listeners also a little bit about what a distance dietetic internship entails. I know that the usually, depending on the place in which these programs are founded, like in Hawaii and Michigan and New York City and Pennsylvania, they have a home base, but then you yourself have to actively go and search for things. And if I'm not mistaken, too, Natalia, because it has been a few years, I think also because of some of the challenges that some of the interns have had, I think some of the directors have had to step up and kind of help with that because, especially in New York City, it can be quite challenging to find a place for placement to be able to say, yes, we'll take you in that hasn't already been contracted with a different program. Did you find any challenges, and what were some of the ways that you were able to network and secure locations for yourself? Because that could be the thing that kind of holds people back from moving forward with a distance CI versus a traditional route.
Let's talk about that. So what a distance dietetic internship is basically either a virtual, a fully virtual internship or a hybrid. So in my case, it was a hybrid. I had some in-person rotations and some virtual rotations. So the reason why you would do a distance internship is if there was a dietetic internship in another state and you were not willing to move, or they didn't offer anything in person and it was fully virtual. But if there was an internship that really resonated with you, and you really liked everything about it, and it's a distance internship across the country, there's nothing wrong with that. You can, take that, and as long as it's accredited, you can get the same exact information and education from it. And in this day and age, I would think a distance internship in terms of being like virtual would work for a lot of people.
So you're more in control of the placement of things, which could be pros and cons to that. Obviously, you're the one that has to kind of go through and make sure you're reaching
Yeah.
out to places. So, did you have connections already with some of the places that you ended up landing, or was your director or other interns able to kind of help you make connections so that you got the experiences that you need?
Our director, Beryl, so she had a list of potential preceptors in different fields. And we definitely used that list, but people weren't necessarily available at that time. So we did have to do our own searching as well. For my clinical connect, that was my own connect. So I had someone that I had worked with in the past, and then I had asked them to ask someone. So it's kind of like that. So at the point that I started my dietetic internship, it was January 2021. So that was in like at the tail end of COVID. It was still within the waves, right? We have different waves, and no hospitals were taking interns. So that was our biggest roadblock. Many skilled nursing facilities also weren't. So that was the really the biggest roadblock in terms of getting a preceptor for my clinical rotation. But community rotation was easy enough because Beryl knew you. And Beryl also has friends in the dietetics industry, and those friends happen to be dietitians, right? So that helped with the other rotations. The clinical was the hardest one to get, but it worked out. And I did my rotation. I actually had a split in two different nursing homes.
I think this really speaks to preparation, flexibility, having a backup plan. So again, even though people out there might not be going in the direction of dietetics or health and wellness in general, I think anytime you put a goal in front of you to really make sure you're not under or overestimating how things are going to work out and try to start reaching out, networking, collaborating, asking questions. Also, the thing that you said too about the placement within NutriCo. So again, for anybody who doesn't know, this is just a large company that helps place newly credentialed or almost to be credentialed dietitians. What I love about that, Natalia, is that a lot of times people fresh out of the internship or fresh out of school or fresh out of their degree sit there and think, I don't know how to make myself look like a desirable candidate. Nobody's going to want to hire me. Everything is entry level. But then you have companies like this that are willing to take a chance and place you with, I'm assuming, a stipulation that you had to make sure you had your credential in place within a certain amount of time. Otherwise, you might not be able to hold the job continue. Is that true? Like, did they kind of say, let's just kind of kickstart you here and do what you can under the supervision of somebody who's already credentialed, and then we'll play it by ear going forward, and then you can always opt to continue working or not working, but at least it gave you experience as a dietitian.
Yeah, definitely. So Nutrico is great in that sense. They actually actively seek you out, you as a dietitian. I don't know if they have access to like, programs with graduates, but they found me. So they reached out to me and offered me a job before I even completed the internship. That was nice. I mean, that I had a real job, a tangible job, fresh out of the program. I felt good. I felt like stable, it gives you stability. You work under another dietitian. You have a year to get your license. While they don't pay for it, maybe they do with full-time workers because I started with part-time. So maybe they do pay for it if you're full-time. But they give you a year, an entire year, to get your license.
And that's so exciting. I've mentioned before a lot of my jobs fresh out of the gate because I came in as a second careerer. So I might as well just been going right back to school as a 20-year-old or so moving through the ranks. But for me, I think I really utilized things like LinkedIn and networking events and just talking to people and saying like what I'm interested in and what I'm pursuing. And similar to you, I had people headhunt me and reach out. So there's like a nervous energy about that too, Natalia, where you're like, oh shoot, now I got to actually do the job. And like it's my first time being legit in this new role. But there's something exciting about that. And I also feel like depending on who your staff, your coworkers are around you, you get to know what to do and what not to do there as well. If you don't love the dynamic, okay, let me kind of put that behind me, maybe look for something else with now that I have this experience under my belt. Or I love this, everybody's so great, they're really exciting to work with, and they're really wanting me to work up the ranks. And then maybe you have promotions that are available to you as the years progress. So I love how all of this kind of put you on that path to where you are now. So let's flash forward a little bit. Tell me a little bit about it doesn't have to be a typical, but like a current week in the life of you or how you transitioned into what you're doing now.
Yeah, so a week in the life of Natalia. Wow. Being a dietitian, I wear many hats. I feel like I've heard this expression so much and only said by dietitians. As a dietitian, I've been in nursing homes, I've been in schools, in community centers, in people's homes, corporate wellness. I've been pretty much everywhere except I would say hospitals, right? So I've never actually done a stint at a hospital. And I have to say that I've enjoyed everything I do. So some things, of course, you enjoy more than others, and some things you stick with more. But I've enjoyed everything because everything was an experience. And that's how, as not in my 20s anymore, adult, like to think of life, that everything is an experience. So good or bad, it's an experience. And I also like to think there's no such thing as bad because it was still experience. You learned from it.
Absolutely. I feel like we glean from what we can take away from any of these experiences, even if it was not meant to be, or even if we regret doing it, at least it gave us
Yeah.
an opportunity to learn from that, which is
Yeah.
fantastic.
Having the jobs or the different opportunities to experience things and that maybe you didn't like them is great because it showed you what you don't like. And how would you know unless you tried it? So you may not love every job you've ever had, and that's totally okay. But if you didn't have the jobs that made you question your whole existence or made you question your whole choice of profession, then you wouldn't know what a great job was because you would have nothing to compare it to because everything would be all sunshine and rainbows.
Just like you said, with kind of wearing all the hats, our profession really does lend itself well to have a little bit of everything. And that's also a great opportunity for anybody who's not entirely sure. Like when I came into this profession, everybody kept saying you have to specialize in something. And I was like, I don't want to. I don't want to be a specialty dietitian. I want to meet with as many people as possible. Now, I will say, in flash forward 9 years into this now, there are definitely, whether it's populations, age ranges, chronic conditions or specific situations like eating disorders, there are definitely things that I feel much more comfortable working with and much less comfortable working with. And so that's the next stance that I'm taking of I can whittle down and make sure that I can refer out to somebody who is much more qualified and loves working with a particular patient population and not feel like I have to take someone on if I don't feel comfortable because you're doing a disservice, right, Natalia? Like if you say yes to somebody and you're just like kind of going through the motions, whether it's at your job or working in a patient facing type of session, you're not really serving them and you're not serving yourself as well. So I love that input and that outlook too. Thank you for sharing that. You have a good presence on social media. Can you share with me a little bit about the role that that plays, whether it's how you utilize it, what you get from it, or what you just intend to put out there? Tell us a little bit about what your plan is, how you use social media, and what kind of, I guess, feedback you get from the people who are following you.
Yeah, so thank you for saying that. I feel like I'm still growing. I feel like I'm still a beginner. And there's so much to learn about social media, and I don't know if I have enough time or patience to learn it all. I like to think of my page as inspiration for your food, for your dinner table, and presenting health information and nutrition and wellness tips. So I know some people don't put up stories, you just put up reels. So I have stories up every single day and I post like on a schedule, not like it's scheduled, but on my own schedule. So like 3 times a day. And I'll have my set things that I post. I'll post usually like a breakfast, my breakfast that I made, like an actual breakfast that I eat. I'll post a quote in the morning, then I'll post my breakfast, then I'll post either a snack or some kind of like physical activity, or sometimes something else, sometimes lunch, or let's say a walk outside. And I'll always post nutrition education. And that's how I like to structure my days in terms of my Instagram stories. The quotes in the morning, some people might say like, oh, well, I've never, by the way, had anyone say, oh, why are you posting quotes? You're a dietitian. You should only post food stuff. I've actually never had anyone say that. I think it's that little voice inside of you that is like, should I be doing this or not? Is this relevant? But I feel this goes back to what we were saying before. I'm more than just a dietitian. Dietitian is my profession, is my career, yes. But I'm also a mom. I'm also a wife. I'm also a friend, a daughter, a sister. You know, I'm a community member. I'm I'm an American. I'm a Jewish girl, and I have other interests besides just, nutrition and food. So nutrition and food is a big part of me, but I also have other interests. And one of the ways that I like to educate people or help provide education is through inspiration. I love to be able to inspire people, whether it is for your next snack, your next meal, or your life or your mindset. That's why the inspirational quotes are there every single day. And I post like nutrition and food quotes in my actual page. So those are more food related, nutrition related, health related, and the ones in my stories are for just life.
That's what I love about your content is there's such a good variety, but it does feel very you, like it's very authentic to who you are. And so you have a little bit of face on there. You have some quick tips for a meal to prepare, which a lot of the things that you share are very attainable. Like you said, it's inspiration, but it's not unrealistic that people could do this for themselves. It's very easy recipes, simple ingredients, quick meals, things that they can churn up that are healthy, nutritious, and also, grab and go items. Like I really love all the stuff that you post on there. I feel like it speaks very much to who you are and you have a great energy, very colorful. Like even as I look at the feed, I don't love when people have a curated aesthetic where it's just like pink and white and pink and white. Like I feel a little bit like what's going on here. You have like a lot of vibrant colors and like I said, sometimes there's a face and sometimes it's outside and sometimes there's a bowl. So I think you bring a lot of good variety and excitement to the audience that you're serving. And you make a good point there. Sometimes we're not for everybody, and that's okay. And so whoever we attract is allowed to hang out and engage with us. And if we're not for you, off you go, kids. Go find someone else that
Yeah.
speaks your language or that is more in line of what you're doing. So thank you for all of the stuff that you share because I do think that you put out a lot of good quality content out there and you are very educational and very inspirational. So that helps with the goal that you're trying to meet. So thank you
Thank
for
you,
that.
thank you, Dina, for saying that because
Yeah.
it's a constant, not I don't want to say struggle, but in the beginning it was trying to figure out my niche, trying to figure out my direction, how I wanted to present myself, and knowing that Instagram is just a part, right? It's just a part that you show to the world. It's not you per se. It's just something that you're showing to the world. So what do I want to show the world? Presumably the whole world is watching, right? So let's, let's show them something that I am proud of. And, putting up a bunch of recipes day in and day out, it's not me. I love cooking and I love food, but it's more than that to me. So I want to explain why to eat certain foods and why to focus on certain vitamins or minerals or nutrients instead of just talking about food.
I want to ask you now too,
Mhm.
in the handful of years that you've been doing this as a profession, are there certain trends or things that you tend to notice a lot? I don't want to necessarily say like everybody's the same, obviously. Are there issues that people bring to you, or are there things that you notice come up most often that you always feel like you have to clarify, or even maybe in the other direction of something you're excited about that people are asking you all the time to explain something? Can you notice any topics or trends that feel kind of consistent in the last couple of years that you feel yourself addressing over and over again?
Yes, definitely. Both ways. So, good and bad. More so on the not so great side. I don't know who comes up with these trends or these fads, but they're here and they're here to stay when they come around. The trend that we're going through now, right? One of them, but a big, huge one is the protein trend. So protein is a macronutrient and is essential. We need it. We all need it. But the way that it's, presented in media is that all of us must have lots of it all the time. And that's wrong. That's not correct. That's not how it is. It's macronutrients are personalized to every person. So nutrition is individualized, right? So it's not a one size fits all. So what works for me might not work for you, and vice versa. To say that everyone needs 120 grams of protein a day is misleading at best and hurtful at worst. It's not meant to be like that. So working with a dietitian, like if you're trying to reach some nutrition goals, working with a dietitian would obviously help you realize what those goals are, but you also can do your own research and you can look up the equation for protein requirement for your body and for your needs. And that's one of the ways that we figure out what your protein requirements are. So not just a standard 120 grams or 100 grams, like there is an actual number just for you. So that's like one of the biggest myths that I love to and hate to, by the way, debunk with my clients because it's a fine line. I tread really carefully when it comes to this because this insatiable need for protein is so ingrained in people and in America for years now that you really need to tread lightly when speaking about this. I mean, if you talk, if you mention that protein is not as important as some other things, then people get upset.
I'm cracking up behind the scenes here because it is one of the things that are probably the least of our problems in
Yeah,
American food consumption almost
Exactly.
everybody gets enough. Like, relax, you're
Yes.
good. There are other nutrients and micronutrients at that too, right, Natalia? Like the
Right.
vitamins and minerals and the fiber that could be missing.
Yeah.
But odds are you're probably getting enough protein. So you're absolutely right. I think I've noticed a trend with that too. And again, I think social media plays a role in that as well. Obviously, way back in the day, 10, 20 years ago, if you had a magazine or watched a news program, that might be where you're getting your information or misinformation from. With social media, it's just a non-stop slurry of everybody constantly using or grabbing onto a particular trend. And as social media does, right, fun fact, if you keep watching certain topics and trends over and over, it keeps feeding you the same topics and trends over and over. So diversify your diet and diversify your social media
Your
feed
feed,
if you can
yes.
say anything from there. Is there anything else you want to speak to about that? Like stuff that maybe does make you excited to talk about or stuff that brings you joy when you're working with your patient populations?
Yeah. So I love it when people bring up, well, first of all, ask me just questions about nutrition. And I always say, please ask me whatever you want, whatever you've always wondered about. I don't like it when people say, this is what worked for my friend, and I want to do the same thing, but I'm not with your friend. I'm with you. You're not your friend. And let's talk about what will work for you. You have to make it so that people want to listen to you. And especially in the sphere where you're counseling. So when you're counseling, you need to have a certain approach. And I tend to ask especially my newer clients, I tend to ask them in the first session, how would you like my approach to be with you? And some of them are taken aback by this because I don't think they've ever been asked that before. And I give them options and they even say, like, what do you mean? And I give them options. Would you like for me to be like a more of like a white gloves approach, like very like, careful, more like a friend to friend, teacher to student, tough love. And then they tell me what they want. And I think it's great. I think it's one of the things that really has helped me with my clientele and in retention as well. Because knowing how a person wants to be treated and then treating them as such, I think really lends itself well to counseling and teaching moments.
And the successful outcomes that you want. And this also
Yeah.
speaks to,
Yeah.
Natalia, you and I, we went to school for our credentials, not terribly far apart from each other. It's not like I had, 30 years on you. I only came right up behind you, and then I had a few years of my own experience. And I know not to denounce anything that we've been through, but we have textbooks and they only teach you so much. And it really is about trusting yourself as a practitioner, as a provider, as a counselor, putting the counselor hat on, being emotionally available to people, having that patient-centered approach. Like I love that you asked the question that probably nobody has asked before of your clients of how do you want me to treat you, right? Like that's essentially it. Like how do you want us to have this? Because it's a mutually beneficial relationship. I, as the healthcare provider, know more than you do in certain things as far as knowledge and chemical compounds and clinical settings are concerned. But you, as the patient, know your body, your home life, your environment, your finances, all of the other things that can affect how your outcomes are. And so I absolutely love that you bring them into that conversation. And this is where, again, not just to kind of speak to the audience who might be up and coming in the ranks of being nutrition students or new dietetic interns or newly credentialed dietitians, but quite literally anybody. When you are in a forum where you're working with other humans, have that compassion, have that flexibility. Ask people how they want to be treated and then provide that. And listen, if you decide not to treat them like that, then you're not a good fit. And maybe both of you need to go find other people to work with, and that's okay. But making sure that that person is heard and how you are able to, I keep writing this word down, to customize and personalize. That's the thing that you kind of keep coming back to. It's not just, my joke is always chapter 9, page 42. Here's the information in the handout. It's what do you need from this? How are you going to be able to implement this to get what you need out of this session and out of these goals that we're creating for ourselves? So I absolutely love the language that you used just now. Thank you so much for that, Natalia.
Thank you, Dina. And I just wanted to add, and one of the other things, not to give you like all my tricks or anything, but one of the other things that I say to my clients is that I know the textbook. I know what works. I know the science. I know what should happen. But only you know your body, only you know your life, and you're the one doing all the work. So I'm just sitting here and advising you, making recommendations, providing guidance, support, help, all that. You're the one actually putting in the legwork. Um, and you're the one who knows your life more than I ever will. So I tend so what I do is I tell them that this is a collaborative effort, that this is a collaborative work, like a group effort, a group project between them and I. And we need each other to make it work.
This also provides them with a permission to have patience with themselves because a lot of times people want that immediate gratification, that quick result, the magic pill, the magic cure, and change takes time, as we know. And so it's quite lovely to have somebody on your team, somebody like Natalya, a dietitian, a therapist, a family member, social support, who is there to hold you accountable, yes, but also really say to you, it's okay to take things slowly. Things are going to be much more realistic, sustainable, manageable if you ease into things than trying to come at it hot, completely overhaul everything because it's really hard to maintain that. So I think that's something too, Natalya. Would you speak a little bit about that also? How do you kind of like teach or train or encourage people to have compassion and be gentle with themselves when they want to see results really quickly, whether it's something personal that they have in mind or going back to the doctor to get, new labs taken in a few months?
It also goes back to what we were talking about before. One of the trends that I hate to see, and that is that people want a quick fix. And I don't think that's necessarily a trend. I think that's kind of a personality trait, perhaps. Um, wanting a quick fix, wanting quick results, with putting in work or without putting in much work. So how I help support clients to become the better version of themselves, to improve themselves, to work on themselves by guiding them through this process. For example, let's say it's a weight loss process, weight loss journey. And for weight loss, this is where it comes in that I know the science, I know the math, I know the calories, I know how it should work, but every person is different. And what can work for one person's metabolism may not work for another. What I like to focus on with my clients is that, yes, we're going to have weight loss. And yes, weight loss is one of your goals. But what I would want as a dietitian to focus on with you is your health. So I focus health first for me, and then I say the weight loss will follow. So if you just focus on eating healthy, following the recommendations for the food and the nutrients and maybe supplements, recommendations, physical activity guidelines, you will have weight loss. Also, what I like to educate and instruct my clients on is that there are non-weight measurements of progress. Besides how much you weigh, there are other measurements of progress. There are your labs, for example. Your blood work is a great indicator of progress. How your pants fit or how your clothes fit. I've had many clients say to me, I'm down 2 notches on the belt. I moved up, so, or my t-shirt feels looser, or I can wear something that I haven't worn in years. And who's to say that's not progress? That's absolutely progress. And sometimes those same people say, but the number on the scale has not budged. And but that doesn't mean that weight loss or weight redistribution hasn't happened. Obviously, something has happened. Body shape is changing. Body shape is changing. Whether or not the number on the scale has changed. And so with other non-weight measurements of progress, besides those, would also be energy levels. Energy levels are a huge one. So when someone says to me, my migraines are gone, I'm sleeping better, my skin looks clear, people are commenting on my appearance and telling me how wonderful I look, or telling me that, what did you do? You did something different. So when I had clients tell me that, when they tell me they are not tired anymore, they have energy throughout the day, those are by far the best kind of measurements of progress for me as a dietitian, as a healthcare professional to hear, much more so than the number on the scale. And I know many people, especially people who come to me for weight loss, they really focus, in the beginning at least, on the number on the scale. And I try to shift their focus to other accomplishments that they are delivering to themselves.
It's almost like you're reframing their whole identity in a way because they're so focused on one particular thing that measures their quote unquote success, and they completely forgot that there's so many other things that they can include in that little checklist of all the things that they've accomplished that really does lend itself, like you said, with the health first approach. I think that's fantastic way to reframe and provide them with new language around that too. I want to ask a few more questions. The first one is, where do you see the future you going? What are some of the things that you, if you have a plan, 2, 5, 10, 20 years down the line, where does that take you?
I feel like I'm a work in progress. One of the things that I really want to do is continue learning, and I'm still doing that. So I'm actually now hoping to be, so I'm studying for an exam to become board certified in obesity and weight management. And that's not the only certification I want. There's the one for digestive health, which is a new one that they just came out with, to be board certified in. And then there are a few other ones, but honestly, I was thinking to get all of them, but I'm like, no, no, you can't get all of them. You have to focus. So the one for obesity and weight management makes the most sense because I deal with a lot of clients for weight loss. And I feel like that's a very a hot topic and a trend that will not go away for better or for worse. So it's best to be the most educated and knowledgeable about it as I can be. And I feel like getting that certification will help me with my counseling. Besides the board certification for the obesity, I'm planning to study for my diabetes care and management educator as well. So that's a second like really a really close runner up in terms of the clientele that I deal with, diabetes. So I would love to become an expert in that field as well. So those are the things that I'm doing for like continuous learning.
That will have an end result. And I think they go hand in hand. I mean, you're not going to be without people who could use your help and expertise in diabetes prevention and management. So I think that's a fantastic thing that you're going to be going into. I myself am hoping one day to do that as well. So if you get there first, call me and tell me how it was.
Yeah.
I'll follow in your footsteps. Natalya, is there anything that we didn't cover? Anything else that you wanted to share? Questions I didn't ask, or things that you wanted to elaborate on, words of wisdom, etc., before we officially wrap up?
Going back to in 5 years, where do I see myself? So with a few more credentials, a couple more babies, and I'm actually in the process of writing children's book now as well. So the topic is, of course, people ask, what would you write a book about? Nutrition, of course, nutrition for kids. So that's in my 5 year plan as well. And going back to school, like officially to get another degree. So like I said, I love school and I've got all these plans and, I'm just like everyone else trying to juggle work life, professional goals, career, mom life, and personal, and making time for myself as well.
I want to elaborate on that for a second, if you don't
Mhm.
mind.
Yeah.
I always call these the non-negotiables. So over the course of a day or a week or a month, if things are quite hectic or if things get thrown off your schedule, what are the things that do keep you centered and grounded? The things that you absolutely must make sure you do, whether it's food, whether it's sleep, like whatever it is that just makes you feel like, okay, I've paid attention to myself this day or this week.
Well, one, I always make sure to fuel myself. It goes without saying, I'm a dietitian. I know which foods to eat, and I make sure that I have those foods at home, so that I'm able to fuel myself at least with breakfast. Sometimes, honestly, lunch gets away for me, which is why I usually typically have a snack or two during the day. Dinner is family time, so dinner is sacred. I make sure to fuel myself to make sure that I'm feeling my best. I have my supplement regimen that I take every day. I don't miss that at all. I make sure to hydrate myself. That's a non-negotiable for me. My green tea is a non-negotiable. I have my green tea more than I drink water, actually. And tea counts as water, by the way. Tea is 90% water, so it definitely counts. And what are my other non-negotiables? Fresh air. I love going outside for walks. And as the research shows, going for a walk in a park or around trees or a body of water is really, really good for your mental health. So those are my non-negotiables. Seeing the sun, fresh air, the wind on my face, spending time with my baby, talking to my mom on the phone. Um, yeah, I think those are my and making sure to so as women, I feel like we always take care of everyone else first and then ourselves last. Um, I I'm not gonna break the mold here. I think I do the same, but I really do try to carve out some time for myself. Um, so yeah, so you gotta really try to carve out some time for myself as well and to get good sleep. Quality sleep is also really important to me.
I think this is such a great time to be talking about this too, because we're coming up on the end of the year. A lot of people are going to be saying, oh, after the holidays, I'll work on everything. But there's no better time than right now just to kind of recommit. So if you heard Natalya list off all of those things, and there's one thing that you're like, oh, shoot, I really miss doing that. I should probably get back at that. Let that be the one non-negotiable that you include in your daily habits, your weekly structure, just to make sure that you're reinvesting and recommitting and prioritizing your own health and wellness. Natalia, this has been so much fun
Yes.
to
Yes.
catch up with you and learn all of the things that you've been working on and allow you to speak to our audience too. I do have my final two-part question, which
Okay.
is what is on your plate today? So we're currently recording on a Saturday, it's a weekend. So as
Yeah.
soon as we wrap up, what's the next thing that you're working on, whether it's personally or professionally? And what is the next meal that you have, or what's the next food item that you're going to be
Yeah.
eating?
So in terms of what's on my plate in my like workload, so currently I'm studying for the exam for to become board certified in obesity and weight management. So I've scheduled the exam already. So now I'm carving out time in my day to study. So that's one of the things I have on my plate. That's like a big one. And in terms of food plate, so right before this, I had my salmon avocado toast, which I have almost every morning for breakfast. So starting off the day with healthy fats and protein and fiber. Um, and can I show on camera? So this is what I started on before. So this was after my toast, and I'm gonna finish this right after. So this is my overnight oats. So overnight oats, and then chia seeds, and made it with yogurt. This time I usually put fresh berries there, but this time today I'm out, so I put in dried cherries and walnuts, cinnamon, a little bit of maple syrup. It's delicious. So whenever I make overnight oats, I make a big batch and it lasts me like a week. And then I have it for breakfast as well.
See, this all goes once again to support my conversation around meal prep and meal planning. It doesn't have to be a million ingredients. You don't have to spend 2 million hours in the kitchen. You don't have to shop for 1,000 different things. Natalia just said, and I say this too, we put things on rotation. We make certain things that we know we enjoy. They're quite varied and diverse in the ingredient content, but they meet the needs of what our daily requirements are, and we don't overthink it. And also, it's stuff that is fairly not very time consuming, right? Like even the overnight oats, plop, 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 stick it in the fridge, off you go. The
Super
salmon
quick. Yeah.
avocado toast, smash, smash,
Mhm.
smash, toast it, and you're
Yeah.
done. You're done.
Yep.
So for anyone out there who struggles with stuff like this, my guidance is always zoom out, take a look at your whole week, and just literally put things on rotation. See what's available, what you have on hand, what the staple food items are, and then leave some space for flexibility and fun things. So try not to overthink it. Try to treat yourself well, eat well, and prioritize those things if you can. So thank you so much, Natalia. It was such a great pleasure
Yes,
to see you
it was.
here and to have you here with me today. Thank you.
Yes. Thank you so much, Dina, for having me. I'm so happy to be part of it. And I was I was nervous for no reason. It was great. I loved it.
I loved it too. Thank you, my dear.